Shalom and welcome to the Black Owned Business Channel, building wealth in the Black community, one Black business at a time. Praise Yah, hallelujah. I want to thank all of my beautiful melanated people out there, from elders and teachers to the youth and movers and shakers. And to everyone watching, we appreciate your support. Thank you for joining. One Yah, one love. So let's talk about some BFs or Black facts straight out of Detroit, Michigan. Listen, this story is kind of interesting. I know everyone knows about the Detroit riots of 1967-68, but I want to read something that's really interesting. It's the Detroit Race Terror of 1863. The Detroit Race Riots of 1863. So, Detroit has been a center for the struggle against slavery and national oppression for a century and a half. Historical developments in Detroit during early 1863 represented the social elements which have characterized race and power relationships in the United States since the Civil War. During the course of the first 2 years of the war between the states, the Southern Confederacy proved to be a formidable adversary of Washington. Many whites of all social classes rejected the notion of going to war to protect the Union, particularly if the end result would be the emancipation of 4 million enslaved blacks. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln on September 22, 1862, challenging the slaveholding secessionist states to end involuntary servitude by January 1, 1863. Two border states which did not secede, Missouri and Kentucky, were exempted, along with Tennessee, which was the last state to join the Confederacy and the first to return to the Union. Several other regions within some rebel states were also exempted as the political grip of the Confederacy had waned. This executive order only served to enrage the Confederate planters even more, along with prompting widespread opposition among Northern Democrats. The Democrats were the party of slavery, and they controlled numerous newspapers in the North that maintained vociferous editorial positions against the Lincoln administration and the war. These Democrats, who vehemently opposed the war to preserve the Union, were called Copperheads by Republicans supporting the war along with the abolitionists. On March 3, 1863, the U.S. Congress passed the Enrollment Act, the Civil War Military Draft Act, mandating the conscription of men aged 20 to 45, both citizens and non-citizens seeking naturalization, into the military. Exemptions from the draft could be purchased for $300. And therefore the law targeted poor and working class whites who could not afford to buy their way out of serving in the Union military. This new law resulted in the escalation of racial tensions against the black populations in the North. The Democratic Party press in New York City and other areas published articles and editorials designed to fuel hatred against black people. These papers used the most derogatory slurs against black people as their standard editorial practice. They emphatically opposed the Conscription Act and encouraged defiance of the law. So the race terror strikes Detroit in March 1863. 4 months prior to the New York draft riot on March 6th, the black community in Detroit was attacked, leaving at least 2 people dead and many others injured. The false charge of rape of a white girl was utilized to rain down violence on innocent residents of the city. A tavern owner named William Faulkner was charged with sexual assault against 2 young girls, one white and the other black, on February 26th. Faulkner's arrest, trial, and conviction was used a pretext to attack the black community, where businesses and homes were ransacked and burned, along with the beating, torture, and outright murder of others. Some accounts of the incident say that Faulkner had denied being of African descent, that he was of Spanish and Native American descent. Others, including the Detroit Free Press, a Democratic publication, and the Detroit Advertiser and Tribune, labeled him as black, even if he only had a slightly distinct trace of African ancestry. Racial tensions escalated in Detroit on the first day of the trial on March 5th, when Faulkner was taken from City Hall to the jailhouse, during which time he and his guards were attacked and hit with projectiles. After Faulkner was convicted on the second day, the Detroit Provost Guard mobilized to ostensibly protect the defendant while he was being moved back to the jail. The guard fired shots in the air attempting to disperse the mobs, but it did not work. Other shots were fired, one of which struck a German man, Charles Launger, in the heart, killing him. The first building attacked belonged to a black coppersmith and homeowner, Whitney Reynolds, who was not at the location at the time. Nonetheless, the 5 people working in the shop were set upon by the white mob. Gunfire from inside the shop temporarily drove back the mob. However, soon enough, the building was engulfed in flames, forcing the inhabitants to flee. One man, Joshua Boyd, was struck in the head with an axe and died, becoming the second documented death of the day. Crowds moved along Lafayette and Fort Streets screaming, "Kill all the niggers," while people attempted to defend their homes and property. Many of the copper shops owned by blacks were targeted with an obvious economic motive. Homes were torched with people in them, while children, women, and men were attacked without any pretense other than the color of their skin, which I believe it is way deeper than just the color of your skin, but that is a topic for another time. Hallelujah. A document published anonymously in the aftermath of the terror campaign entitled "A Thrilling Narrative from the Lips of the Sufferers of the Late Detroit Riot, March 6, 1863, with the hairbreadth escape of men, women, and children, and destruction of colored men's property not less than $15,000, quote unquote, provides first-hand accounts of the mob violence and the heroism of the black community. The next includes statements from various men and women who provide details on how the riot began and proceeded within the city. The U.S. military forces at Fort Wayne and Ypsilanti were called in to put down the reign of terror. Order was said to have been restored by late that evening, while the impact of the orgy of the violence lasted for years to come. Many blacks fled to Canada and areas in Michigan outside of Detroit. The Detroit Advertiser and Tribune labeled the incident as a free press riot, attacking the newspaper for its pro-slavery position despite its editorial claim of supporting the Union against the secession by the Confederate States. Faulkner spent 7 years in prison at Jackson, while the young white girl recanted her statements alleging sexual assault. This case was indicative of a racist judicial system that targeted blacks as a mechanism of social control and economic exploitation. That was a brief history of the Detroit riots of 1863. Praying blessings over our brothers and sisters in Michigan, and may everlasting peace be with you.
Smiling faces show no traces of the evil that lurks within.
This brings me to a special black-owned business straight out of Detroit, Michigan. Eric's I've Been Framed Shop and Gallery, started by Eric Vaughn. Eric's I've Been Framed Shop and Gallery specializes in the unique. They use a variety of techniques, shadow boxes, plexiglass boxes of various depths, elaborate frame layouts, and other artistically unique designs to make your piece an original work of art without overshadowing the focal point. Their employees are knowledgeable and well-trained with a complete focus on customer service, helping each customer bring their ideas to life, sorting through hundreds of frames and matting samples to find just the right combination. They carry only the most interesting and cutting-edge frames and moldings from premier companies such as Roma Molding, Larson Jewell, TC Molding, AMPF, the Williamson Company, and Studio Molding. There are many pieces already framed to choose from, and hundreds of frames, moldings, as well as infinite ideas from their staff to assist you with your customer framing needs. The shop also sells prints, posters, originals, handmade note cards created by local artists, coffee table art books, black memorabilia, cool t-shirts, candelaire, and candle breeze candle warmers and craft items. Such vivid and lively art pieces. Well, let's see what visitors had to say about their personal experience at the gallery. One person says, Eric and his team truly blew me away. I have never had anything framed before. They took all the time I needed discussing my options with me and helping me pick out a frame that worked with my canvas painting. In addition to having a painting that is now perfectly framed, I had the pleasure of looking around the shop at some of the incredible artwork on display. I'd highly recommend the shop to anyone. Another customer says, I love Eric's I've Been Framed. I have been a customer since 1992. Eric has framed every piece of art in my home, and I have quite a bit. Well, thank you for supporting Eric's I've Been Framed shop and gallery. You can reach this business at area code 313-861-9263. That's area code 313-861-9263. They're located at 16527 Livernois Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. So thank you, Eric's I've Been Framed, for bringing the Black community a creative talent that requires thinking outside the frame. I'm glad that I could support, and you all can support Eric's I've Been Framed as well by visiting their website that I have down in the description box, giving them a call, or even stopping by if you are in the Detroit area or surrounding areas. Now let's talk about stock market and Black business. I encourage everyone to buy a share of stock in at least one Black business, and if you do buy shares of stock, make sure you also utilize the company's product or service to help the shares grow in value. It can be very simple and any and everyone can do it. Listen, when you buy shares of stock in a Black business, you become a shareholder and part owner of a business. So you actually become a business owner yourself. Even if you work a 9 to 5, you can become a business owner just by buying shares of stock in a Black business. To buy shares of stock now, you can get a brokerage account by signing up with TD Ameritrade, an online stockbroker, and I have a link for that in the description box. And the inspirational word of the day is obstacle. Something that makes it difficult to do something. An object that you have to go around or over, something that blocks your path. I also want you to know if you're an aspiring filmmaker, musician, or anything in entertainment, you can send your trailers and videos to blacktalent_04@yahoo.com, and I will post your videos on this channel. All I'm asking is that you do not send vulgar or sexually explicit material. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this meeting. Hope you'll attend the next. Don't forget to share this video, subscribe, like, and comment. If you want to join on Facebook and Twitter, the links to those pages are in the description box below. You can hashtag BobC2020 and hashtag RobW2020. On Twitter, you can stay up on some Black business news stories there as well. And on Facebook, be on the lookout for the Ballin' Black Bosses, or as I like to say, BBB accredited folks in our community that make $1 million or more in their Black-owned business for some more motivation. So I gotta go now, and I'm sure you all have things you need to take care of too. But remember, this is the Black-owned business channel, building wealth in the Black community, one Black business at a time. Until next time, one love, Yah bless. Peace.